in order to take that pound of flesh in Saudi, you have to have that work-life balance. And I think at a certain point, even the drive of 90 minutes become a bit too challenging, especially in the weather. And especially if you're there till 7, 8 o'clock at night, or you're traveling to Riyadh, or you're over in Jeddah and over in Red Sea Development, and we were doing a lot of traveling. So getting home, 4 years was enough. So I'd said to the boss, look, is there any chance of shifting me on somewhere else? Because I feel like I've done what I needed to do. I'd like to pass this candle to somebody else, the baton, pass it on. Somebody else can run with it now. We've done what we needed to do. I'm pretty happy. I can leave here with my head held high. I've not, we've certainly not failed. Yes, there were some mistakes, and yes, we lost a bit of money here and there. But all in all, I think the foundation was set, and we built a reasonable team, and it just needed tweaking. Maybe some with a bit more specialism needed to come in operations to make it more profitable. The strategic stuff, from my perspective, the strategic stuff had been set. Now, I'd had enough. So at the time, South Africa was calling. I was just incredibly excited about the opportunity there, and the complete opposite of what Saudi might be, right? I mean, you're jumping from a very, very, very conservative country into a place that, you can smoke weed on the streets kind of thing. It's a very different environment, very different culture. And actually, even the work environment was completely different. I mean, for example, in Saudi Arabia, if you want to hire short-term staff, it's almost impossible. The only people that you can hire there have got visas, right? They're allowed to be there, they're allowed to work there, that are registered in a bank, that have got Saudi IDs and are on some kind of contract already. They're the only people available. Whereas in South Africa, you don't need a visa. You can pick up your phone and give anyone a 10-minute job in 5 minutes. Hey, do you want this job? Yeah, I'll be there. So the workforce rotation it was a very different beast. So moved there. What now? We're looking at early 22. So you have one managing director, or at least we did in the Middle East region, that sits at headquarters here in Dubai as part of Mammoet, and then all of the P&L owners, all of the business owners, the guys on the senior guy in that country is called a general manager, a GM. And basically he builds that team. He's building the sales, he's building the opportunities, he's running the operations, he's bringing in the cash, he's dealing with HR. And, you're running a small business, but what you're doing once a month and more regularly than that, if you're not doing it very well, is reporting into the headquarters here, where Mammoet then looks at, 10 business units. He's got 10 GMs or 6 GMs or whatever that he deals with. Reporting into Dubai, yeah. And South Africa was the same. So although it was a larger area in terms of geographical space, you've got the whole of Southern Africa. I mean, at the time they were taking projects in Nigeria. Nigeria is quite north on the west there. So they're operating that from Joburg right down in the south. So, you've got all of the Red Sea, basically, the islands, Mauritius and Seychelles and Reunion, Madagascar. And then anything up to sort of Ethiopia, Eritrea. And then on the west, sort of Nigeria down, Angola and Namibia. The idea was that they were going to change their model from having a foothold in each country with the general manager and a full team and equipment and yards and maintenance and sales and, a lot of overheads and stress. And I think I mentioned the other day, the idea of that is to then springboard from that smaller maintaining or that self-sufficient business unit. The idea was, if you're in the country and you've got a name for yourself and you've managed to do your marketing right, when there are bigger projects, you can springboard from that smaller branch with the big boys that are in the background. Your Dubai headquarter then can jump in with their sales efforts, jump in there with their sort of niche equipment, their SPMTs, their bigger cranes, their bigger, jacking and skidding or whatever it is, the big boy stuff. And these projects are there. And the idea was, if you are already in the country and you know these clients and they've worked with you on a smaller scale, they're much more likely to want to work with you on the bigger stuff, right? And that was the idea. Well, my mum sort of turned that on their head and went, yeah, but that's too risky. That's kind of too expensive. And actually, some of these business units, they're not making not making us any money, but they're continually asking for investment. You know, that crane is old now. We want a new crane. Or our vehicles are needing to be replaced. Or our building that we're in now needs refurbishing, or whatever it might be. But there's always continuous investment in that smaller business unit. And if these big projects are not being springboarded from, then that P&L is not really supporting the model anymore. And I'm not saying that that was the case for South Africa, but maybe across the regions that was the case. It's not worth the squeeze anymore, guys. So we want you to sell it, get it off our books, and we're going to re-strategize into this much bigger sort of niche model of working on the bigger, sexier stuff where we can get our big equipment in there without the overheads and the risk of the dramas that you're causing us at these lower levels. Right at the end of 22, so I got there in the February, and by the September, October, I'm like already being asked to find a buyer for the business. And yeah, it's all hush hush, don't say anything, and we need to get this over the line, Kev. So yeah, it was a testing time actually, and not really what I'd bought into, and pretty perturbed by it all, but given the assurance from Mammoet at the time that, you know, this is for the good and benefit of the company overall. We like you, and you don't need to worry about it. You know, we'd like you to select some of your good guys that you've got, and we'll help them out. But ultimately, we need to let this business go to a strong partner in the country, because we don't want to let this link go in South Africa. There will be work for us in the future. Establishing a strong partner on the ground makes good sense to us, without all the risk associated with the overhead. So find us a partner, find us a buyer. We're willing to negotiate. They can have our equipment, and let's sign like a cooperation and alliance agreement with this company, whoever it is, for the future. So yeah, race on 6 to 8 months. The buyer that we did find fell through, and it opened up an opportunity for me and the management team at the time. So after a couple of whiskies one night, let's see if the bank will loan us some money and we'll do it on our own. So from this, you know, idiot 17-year-old who didn't have a clue what he was doing has now got an opportunity to borrow a large amount of money from the bank. You know, I just didn't believe it would happen. You know, this happens to, you know, the few and far between. But what an opportunity to land on my desk. I mean, to be honest, pretty good at what I do. I mean, I'm not singing my own trumpet or anything, but I felt like I was ready to have my own company now. I felt like I was good at it, but I'd not considered it because, in fact, I remember who is now a shareholder, the operations manager at the time, who's now the operations director, Yaku, called me and said, well, why don't we just buy it ourselves? Why are we looking for a buyer? I was like, they won't sell it to us. We'll never find the money. How are we going to find? Shut up, mate. We'll find a buyer. Don't worry. I've got you a job. We'll work together in the future. Let's just do what the big brother says, and all will be fine. You know, never believe in. Well, just didn't even cross my mind really. I thought it would be unaffordable, in all honesty. But I think that's what kind of changed the perspective. At least when you go to the bank for money, you know, they can see this, okay, it's de-risked somewhat with the value of your assets versus the value of this. So yeah, we're happy to lend you this cash based on able to put a deal together. Yeah, so that kind of, so this was September 22, and by July, August of 23, essentially now we're in charge. The deal is almost done. Well, it's the Southern Africa branch of Mammoet. As I said, it covered not a massive region, but those Southern African countries, of which there's not that much work for us really anyway. Tanzania, yes. Angola, for sure. Madagascar, a little. I mean, wind farms and the like are starting to come up in Namibia and Botswana, and there are the odd sort of bits of transportation work that we can get across there, but it really wasn't a focus to be outside of South Africa that much. It's risky, man. Once you cross the borders of South Africa into other countries, you know, you're acknowledging risk, you're accepting risk, and you know, as we've been bitten a couple of times in the past, Mammoet really didn't like it an awful lot. You know, it really needed to be profitable in order for you to take that risk. And every risk that you take with shipping and customs and, you know, working for a client that perhaps you don't know that well, you know, sending million dollar equipment that's worth millions of dollars across the border that you might never get back. You know, it's a risk, man. So, yeah, there was work across the border, but it included a number of countries there that that we are still working in. Everything, everything. It was literally, you know, you can take the shareholder certificates, you take the manpower, you take all the equipment, you take all the land, you take all the projects, you take all the clients, you take all the liabilities, and that's the big thing. When you buy a going concern, you're buying all of that legacy, meaning anybody that calls Mammoet South Africa up, oh yeah, you know, remember 10 years ago, you guys, you did this job for me, well, this has happened. That where we've got that liability, if you like, meaning that any stone that's uncovered is your problem. You know, you've taken over everything. So the bank accounts stayed the same. That we didn't even need to change bank accounts. We just changed the name literally changed the name from Mammoet to Tembo. And Tembo is a Swahili word for elephant, where the
Just about to ask where the name.
yeah, yeah. You know, I would love to lie to you and tell you that was my brainchild. I mean, I'd love to sit here and say, yeah, we're millionaires. We've nailed it. We've smashed it out the park. But there's still a long way to go, I think. Challenging. You think you know everything. You think when you're part of a big corporate beast, you think you know everything. You'd like to think you know everything, but when you're actually in charge and the buck stops at you, it's a very different feeling. It's a very different mindset, actually. So we went through some school fees last year. Let's say we had a few challenges. We took on maybe more than we should have. It's absolutely exploding, and what a great time to have bought it. You know, if we were struggling for work and struggling for rate and couldn't keep our equipment busy, but yeah, when we say how well is it going, it's going really well in the fact that every single piece of equipment is busy. But I always feel that we have to be kind of self-critical on ourselves. Like if we just say, oh, it's going really well and we're making loads of money, then that I think that's foolish. I think you got to keep challenging yourself and keep sort of analyzing your performance all the time, and we change our strategy a lot, and we love these strategic calls. We love getting our heads together, and it really is the Arthur's round table. You know, there's 5, 6, 7 of us now who get on really well as friends, as trusted colleagues. Oh, we want to stay in the wind industry for sure. I think there's a great deal of opportunity there for Tembo. There will be some investment in equipment. There's an investment in the team and the division itself. You know, we're working pretty closely now with those big OEMs and those freight forwarders. I think we've got a good foothold in the wind market. We're not going to get too big. I don't think we need to grow so big. We certainly don't want to be left at the end of the 4 or 5 years with a load of equipment that we can't get rid of. So, you know, we've got to be mindful of this is a short-term curve, as it normally is in Africa. You know, you capitalize on that 3 or 4 years and get out. But yeah, we're still focusing on Mozambique, you know, with the LNG project there. There's certainly going to be some opportunities in the future coming from that. Of course, we've always got, you know, the Sassels and the Natrefs and the sort of the energy sector for us, where we can get involved in their shutdowns and turnarounds, and there's quite a lot of work in renewing those old plants as well. There's a load of stuff going on in KZN, some new installations going on down there as well, and of course we're keeping our eye with Angola, Tanzania. There's work out in the ports, and there's plenty of work actually to keep us going for the next couple of years. I really don't feel under pressure commercially anymore. I think a lot of investment is coming into Africa now. I think there's, you know, lots in mining, there's lots in renewables, oil and gas. It's Saudi's the big place now because that's where all the money is. But watch this space, man. We've always said it'll go to Africa, but we can see some fruit in the pudding now, and it's quite sexy actually.